Hello and welcome to Youth Assembly this 16th day of February 2021. I am Sylvia Ishewe and it's good to have you join us today for a very important program, how to tackle insecurity in Nigeria. Now, Nigeria is currently battling with a lot of insecurity and threats that have led to the loss of innocent lives and properties in different parts of the country. Crimes like kidnapping, deadly attacks by armed bandits, and even criminal gangs and inter-ethnic clashes have taken over in some parts of the country, and this is worrisome. Now, what can the government do to nip the insecurity in the country in the bud and prevent further escalation of violence and crimes in the country? That is one question we intend to answer today, and I'm not alone today to do that. I'm with Dr. Kabir Adamu, who is a security risk assessment consultant. Welcome, Dr. Kabir.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning to you. So we're tackling insecurity. So with the recent happenings in Nigeria, what has taken over some parts of Nigeria, it has become worrisome. How do you feel getting all of this news, waking up in the morning and seeing the trends and the killings and the kidnappings and the inter-ethnic clashes happening? How do you feel when you see such as a security expert?
I feel very disturbed. It's like a doctor who is about to commence the treatment of a terminal patient, and he knows that the disease is terminal, and the cure is available, but then those who should administer the cure, for some reasons, are not unfortunately administering the cure. It gives me a lot of worry what Nigerians are subjected to on a daily basis. Some lose their life, then even the trauma that you could be the next victim or your loved one could be the next victim, that puts people through a lot of stress. And so that really, really worries me. And I sometimes feel that, we deserve better than what we're getting, unfortunately.
Well, how did we get here? Yes, it is not new. We've had inter-ethnic clashes in time past. I mean, as a child, I've witnessed some in my lifetime. So it is still happening even at this point, even as previous governments have done a lot of things to try to check this clashes, but it still persists. How do we get here and how are we still here?
A lot of factors, really, starting from the conduct of our politicians. This is not something that started today, like you rightly said. I think over time, some of our politicians have created this idea of marginalization, which in some instances is real, but then in a lot of instances is not real. The whole idea of a democracy is for the majority to carry the vote at the end of the day. However, you want to make sure the minority too are carried along. But where the perception of marginalization is introduced to serve a political purpose, and so those who feel marginalized seek ways to sabotage the effort, as it were, of the majority, then you could have that situation. Now, I'm not in any way saying that even if you are the majority, you should not carry the minority along. In today's world, they are preaching diversity, they are preaching equity, and they are preaching inclusivity. And so even if you are the majority, you seek ways to practice these three things that I mentioned: diversity, inclusivity, as well as equity. Now, that is number one. Number two is the decay of our institutions. Most of our institutions, unfortunately, are not as functional as they should be. So in the area of security, we have, we've discussed this in the previous discussions we've had. We have 27 ministries, departments, and agencies that are responsible for security. And each of these 27 are budgeted for. They get money, but frankly, their output is not commensurate to the monies that we give to them. And so that weak capacity of the institutions is also a contributory factor. Then corruption is also a contributory factor, unfortunately. And corruption. Everybody knows how bad corruption is. Just recently, the corruption perception index was released, and we all know the number we occupy. It created a lot of furor in the country. Then the attitude of a lot of Nigerians as well. We have bashed the politicians. I started by saying that they are responsible,
Yes.
but then what of us, Nigerians? All you need to do today is go out on the streets of Abuja and see how some people are driving against traffic, and see how some people are doing things that you wonder if this is a human being, whether God has given him the brains that every human being should possess. And then, of course, part of this behavior of Nigerians is how our value system, unfortunately, has collapsed. Now, there are three agencies that are responsible for shaping or promoting or protecting the value system. Number one is the family system. Number two is educational institutions. And then lastly, you have religious bodies. And now all of these three, unfortunately, have created a situation where the value system of the Nigerian society is failing. And the simple example of that is we no longer question wealth. People
Yeah.
acquire wealth, and nobody bothers to ask where this wealth came from. In fact, the moment they are rich, they are seen as prominent members of society. When I was young, if a certain family is associated with any form of criminality or offense or deviance in the society, nobody would allow anyone to associate with that family or marry from, or a member of that family marry from another family. So that isolation is in itself a deterrence in today's world, because these three systems that I've mentioned, the family, the religious bodies, as well as the educational system, has failed in terms of shaping our value system. We now have a situation where people seek to acquire wealth illegally without making that distinction. There's nothing wrong with seeking to acquire wealth. It's a
But
right,
when you
right?
yes, when it goes illegal, then there's something wrong right there. But yes,
Exactly.
you mentioned individuals being playing a major role in what we're seeing in the country today. Like what happened in Ibadan at the Sasha market. It started like an argument between two people, and all of a sudden it became something else. So why do you think this still happens in communities where people don't even expect it to happen, but it just happens?
So a couple of factors. Number one is the failure of a functional early warning system. In
Okay.
most societies, we introduce early warning systems. We call it EWS in short. Now, those
Okay.
early warning systems are supposed to propel certain actions. So when those two individuals were quarreling, there should have been an early warning system. Someone should have called a certain authority. That authority should have come in to now either mediate or to regulate. Because if you allow small situations, it's like they say, a stitch in time saves nine. In this instance, that stitch did not happen. So what happened later happened. So that's number one, the failure of an early warning system. And number two is the failure of a responsible leadership system within that nucleus of society. It was a market,
It
and
was a market.
as you and I know, in every organization there is need for leadership. Where there is no leadership, then you would have such a situation. So who are the leadership of that market? Why did they not take the responsible role to either mediate or to penalize who was at fault? I've had different narrations that it was a young
But they
man who
said
crossed.
this thing escalated in the twinkle of an eye. Like nobody saw it coming, and it just happened. So
Um,
how
I'm,
will
I'm,
them
I'm a
strength?
professional,
Okay.
and I can tell you that you can deconstruct any situation. And when you deconstruct that situation, you would see sequences. When people say it happened in a twinkle of an eye, no. Um, we are told that somebody bought vegetables in front of someone's shop, and the owner of that shop came to argue. Now, that argue was a conflict point. Everybody should have had that argument. Then, at the point where the person allegedly hit the woman and she was pregnant, anyone who has any sense and who has been monitoring the development in the last few weeks knows that the ethnic tension in the southwest had been escalated immediately after Governor Akeredolu ordered the eviction of herdsmen from the forest. that ethnic tension was escalated. So anyone who had been monitoring that would know that something like that can trigger an ethnic violence, and so should have immediately stepped in to take action. So like I said, the absence of an early warning system. Then an early warning system is useless if there is no response to it. In other words, the system raises the alarm, and then you now have to respond. And how do you respond? You can respond in several ways. As an example, someone should have come in,
Okay.
either arrested that person who fought the vegetables in front of the woman and then went ahead to hit her, and then whoever it is that is supporting his action should also have been arrested. Because once you arrest and then you now deploy enough resources to man every hotspot, trouble area, I mean, I don't think there is any market in Nigeria that does not have vigilantes or private security personnel of whatever kind working for them. At least the markets I know have that. So why didn't all of this happen? Then it is when these levels, these private levels don't work, that the now public security organizations would come in. So whoever it is that is in charge of that market, in terms of the security arrangement in that market, should have seen the signs, immediately called the police or the civil defense or whichever security organization they can mobilize at that point in time, sometimes even the military, to come in immediately. If all of this had been done, the issue would have been nipped in the bud, and we
So,
would not
so,
have had.
so do you see this as a problem generally in Nigeria? Like the tension is there in the southwest, yes, and some parts of the country, and nothing is being done until something bad happens. Why do you think things or government or authorities don't take action before something escalates to something else? Why do you think that is so, Dr. Gabriel?
I think it's the absence of accountability within our systems. If we introduce accountability where we penalize the leadership of organizations that are responsible for certain actions and yet they don't take those actions and things like this happen, then the next person to occupy that seat will wake up. Like in this instance, what happened in Ibadan, I expect a committee to be set up either by the executive or the legislative arm of government to investigate which agency was responsible, either at the state level or at the federal level, to stop this type of things from happening. And the leadership of that agency should be penalized. If it means querying that leadership or firing that leadership, then that would do it. So accountability is number one. Then number two is also monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring and evaluation allows us to have key performance indicators where you are able to say, okay, this person is performing or is not performing based on the key performance indicators. So where if we are able to introduce that, I mean, in Abuja as an example, there is an agency responsible for markets in Abuja, and I'm certain that in Oyo State there will be an agency, a government department responsible for markets, and that government department would have security personnel under it, both public and privately organized security agencies. So the committee should ask critical questions. Who dropped the ball? Who allowed those things to happen? Now, that person, that individual, should be held accountable, either by asking him to go or even in some instances prosecuting him, because frankly, lives are sacred. Anytime lives are lost or properties are destroyed, somebody should be held accountable. We cannot have a system that does not hold people accountable, irrespective of who they are, whether for religious, political, or social affiliations. They should be held accountable so that it serves as a deterrent to whoever occupies that office tomorrow. I don't subscribe to this idea of justifying actions because the victim is of a certain tribe or of a certain religion. No, a life is sacred, and where lives are lost, then we need to take action. The danger is if we don't take action, then these things will continue. And if they continue, today is not affecting you. God forbid tomorrow it may affect whoever is justifying the action.
All right. All right. Yes, it's Youth Assembly. And yes, we are looking at how to tackle insecurity in Nigeria with the pockets of clashes happening here and there in the country. We need to talk about it. And we don't just want to talk about it alone. We want you also to contribute and tell us what you think, how we can actually tackle insecurity in the country, like what happened in Ibadan, in the north, what is happening all over the country. How can we nip the bud at this point, especially in terms of security from the government's perspective and also from individuals. We all have a role to play, just like Dr. Kabir has highlighted. We'll anticipate your response and then we'll take it. If you have questions, please feel free to ask those questions. All right, I have another guest here. Joining us right now is Mr. Ben Okezie. He is a security expert. Welcome, Mr. Ben.
Well, good morning. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good. Good to have you.
Yeah, I can see you are doing good. Well done.
All right. So I believe you've heard so far what we've discussed about the happenings in the country, especially in the last week where we had the clash in Ibadan. So what is your take on this issue, the insecurity in the country, and what do you think the government should be doing to put an end to clashes in the southwest?
Not only in the south, I
Yes,
think
not only, but yes, I
it's,
wanted you to give me your opinion on what happened in Ibadan.
okay. What I think, just like the little I heard from the gentleman that spoke now, I still believe that if there is a good relationship between members of the public and the police, many of these things will be nipped in the bud. I remember in those days, during the time in Lagos, there was a commissioner of police, MD Abubakar. He introduced a mailbox whereby people can easily, access the police by, sending in their problems. But today we have that has been overtaken by events. We now have our phones. I will be thinking in the terms of technology because the world is now a global village. And what one expects is that there should be a link between the police and members of the public in terms of, the police providing a particular easy number. I don't know why up to now we cannot get an easy number that even the village woman can easily use to assess and to call the security agencies when there's problem in their neighborhood. That what happened in Ibadan. One would have expected that, like he said, there's a security organization in charge of that market.
Yes.
Before anything could have escalated, that security agents body, they have their men who walk around the market. Because I know, for instance, in
Yeah.
Abuja here, when I drew up the security platform for this market in Abuja,
Mm.
Gariki, we made it possible that there should be a situation where security men can move around the market, and then they have walkie-talkie so that if they sense anything, they quickly contact their head office, their headquarters, that which is also situated in the market. So this will tell us now that every market should be well reorganized in such a way that the security men posted, any security organization that is handling such a market should have all these gadgets. All these gadgets should be well identified before the government can hand over any of such market to security organizations. If that security organization that is in charge of that market was up to par with everything that is necessary as a security company, they should have
Yes.
nipped everything in the bud even before the police came around. They wouldn't even have allowed that thing to escalate to the extent, if it means shutting down the market immediately they notice that it's going to create attract more people into the market, they could have shut down the market and then take full control, and then before the police comes in, and then everything will have been resolved. Not, it wouldn't have taken this type of bloody
Unfortunately,
situation that
true.
we experienced.
Well, unfortunately, yes, we have some comments already, and yeah, this is from SDK Vitus in Konyemere. Okay, he said it will promote corruption. Now, this is asking the question: would the establishment of state police lead to improved security in Nigeria? And he says it will promote corruption. He's not an advocate for state police. But thank you, SDK, for your comments. You can be a part of the discussion and tell us what you think we are finding solutions to the insecurity challenges in the country. And solutions will do us good at this point. And so, yes, talking about state police, some people, Nigerians have been calling for the establishment of state police to tackle the insecurity. So, what is your perspective on this, Doctor Mr. Okizi?
Just yesterday, on another platform, another radio station, I specifically advocated for state police. I have been one of the first people. Immediately, Bola Tinubu Ahmed said it. Then the former president, Ibrahim Babangida, said it. We have been advocating for this. I have tendered so many papers. I have said it that state police is the in thing all over the world. You don't have this type of centralized policing. You decentralize the police system so that everybody, every segment of the country can have a feel of what policing is all about. For instance, like I said, if the Boko Haram issue, for instance, when Yusuf Ibrahim was mopping up young boys and giving them food in their hundreds and in their thousands, and then was feeding them. The state police, the community policing under the state police will have noticed this and will have been asking questions. Who is this man? Where is he getting the money to feed all these children? What is it? What's the purpose? And you find out that majority of them were Amajeris. And then if that has been done, and then the DSS in the state will have joined hands with the police, and they will have gone to question him. They will have gone to find out what that philanthropic gesture is all about. Then they will have known the motive for all that he is doing. You see, because he has given them, radicalized them, giving them an ideology. So when an issue came up between him and the security institution, whereby the governor came waded in, it was already too late. And when he was killed, you can see the type of situation that thing created, and up to now we are still battling with it. If we had state police, there's no way the governor, as at that time, would have taken full control of the whole situation. Not a situation whereby the commissioner will be calling Abuja for response. The commissioner will be
let's hear the take of Dr. Kabir here.
From Abuja. So if we have state police, governors would be fully in charge of their states.
Okay, Dr. Kabir, what is your take on this state policing? Are you an advocate also, or do you think the way it is, the structure is now at the national level, it is okay?
So I'll answer this in twofold. In the first place, there is no federalism, no federal structure that shouldn't have a police, state policing, and in fact, a community policing structure. So beyond even having state police, you should allow the local government to also have their own policing arrangement. However, we have a peculiarity in Africa, and I want us to look at this unbiased. What is the peculiarity that we have in Africa? The democracy at the state level that we're practicing is frankly not a democracy. The best example of this is when state elections are being held. The likelihood is that only one party is likely to contest. And in fact, even when that party contests, the governor, to a larger extent, determines who the representatives of that party is. Most times the opposition would just fold his hands. Even if they contest, they're not likely to win. It just happened in Kano not too long ago in the southeast. In fact, several states up till now have not even held their state elections for whatever reason. Sokoto is about to hold its elections, and the opposition is crying foul. So what am I trying to say? The party machinery, the political system, the democratic structures at the state level are not yet matured enough to accommodate this policing arrangement. So I think we need to focus on that first, improve the quality of the democracy at the state level, so that the checks and balances that we have in a democracy would be introduced to stop the executive arm of the government at the state level from using the police from carrying out. The example that my co-discussant mentioned in Borno, I will tell you what would have happened if we had state policing. The Boko Haram is actually a child of the ECOMOG group. And who created the ECOMOG group? It is the state governor. So how could you use the state authority against the child you created in the first place? So until we correct all of these things, all of these anomalies within our democracy at the state level, I don't think we're matured enough to have state. If we do, then what is likely to happen is that the state governors, the political machinery at the state, will use this policing arrangement, unfortunately, to achieve their personal objective. So while I'm in support of state policing and even local government, I think before we allow that, change our constitution to allow that, we should ensure the democratic structures are matured at the state level.
All right, fair enough. Corrects the loopholes, but there is also the issue of headsmen, and there is the governor. Yes, there was something the governor said. The governor of Kano State, Umar Ganduje, who said that open grazing should be replaced by ranching to curb farmer headers clashes in the country. Now, open and night grazing it's been identified as a major factor responsible for the increase in crimes and between the farmers and the herdsmen. So, what do you think that this will do? Is it a good solution to the problem we're having in terms of that aspect, Doctor?
Yes, I am totally against open grazing. I think our development as a society has made open grazing outdated. However, unfortunately, you and I are not the practitioners of open grazing. The practitioners of open grazing are the Fulani herders and several other, because we were made to understand that it's not just Fulanis that are involved in livestock agriculture or farming in Nigeria. There are several traces, although the Fulanis are the face of it, but it appears there are several other persons involved. So no matter how you and I sit discuss here, if we do not reach those that are responsible for this hardening, this open grazing, and then take them through the necessary rudiments for change, then this our goal will not be achieved. Last 2 years, when the Buhari administration attempted to introduce the livestock transformation policy, which included some components of ranching and several other components, you saw how Nigerians, almost in the majority and as a whole, objected to it. And so I think we need to be very open and mindful of the fact that we, the elites, you and I, and those who are opposing this livestock transformation policy, are not who will create the change. Those who need change are the herders. And so our language should be directed towards them. And it shouldn't be a language of condemnation. It should be a language that seeks to create change. When you are dealing with a culture, when you're dealing with a way of life, then the language should be persuasive and it should be one of support so that they see the merit in what we're saying. They themselves agree. In the past, if you sell 2 cows, you could do a lot with it. Today, if you sell 2 cows, what can you do with those cows? So they agree. The majority of them agree that they need to transit from open grazing to ranching. But how do they do that?
But you're saying that Nigerians kicked against it, the ranching thing, but I see a lot of people talking about ranching is the way to go. But let's hear from Mr. Ben Okezie. Well, your take on this issue. Why do you think people, the headers now, are now taking ranching into consideration at this point?
I frankly speaking, I I subscribe to what he has just put on the table now. But I would want to also go the security aspect. You know, because of the clashes that emanates
Yes.
from all this, I will. I'm providing a solution to the effect that what I call header security.
Mm.
Header security, whereby a department, a section of the police, just like the police is having anti-terrorist
Okay.
department or they can have a header security.
Hello, Mr. Ben. Hmm. Okay. So before we get him to reconnect, I don't know what's going on, but doctor, take it from here. Ranching. So why is it a huge problem for them to actually take this into account and maybe take on this path?
Are you talking of the hadath now,
Yes,
or
yes. What even the implementation of it?
well, like I mentioned earlier on, their culture, what they've been brought up to know,
Hmm.
subscribes to open grazing. So that's all they know. It's like giving, a typical African child, dropping him in a society in Europe, and then without teaching him the rudiments to survive in the cold weather of Europe, and then just dropping him there. Frankly, he's likely going to die. So this group of Nigerians or persons, the only thing they know is this open grazing. Now we've come up with a new idea, ranching. Now,
Hmm.
how do we transit them from this old idea that they have, which is the only thing they know, into this new idea? It's through explaining to them, through supporting them, and through also in where we need to, helping them, taking them to schools. And I think that's what the Kano state government is doing. That I really, really love. He chose, if I'm right, about 100, children of Hadas, and he has taken them to different schools across the world, including in Turkey, where they are being taught livestock farming, including artificial insemination and other aspects of animal husbandry. Now that's the way to go, so that they see the value themselves and then now transit naturally from point A to point B. Now the danger is this, and this I'm sure this is what is making Nigerians talk. People are dying currently as a result of the activities of these herdsmen, and
Exactly.
I
And
use the word
farmers are losing their produce also as some other person's business. Hmm.
exactly. But you see, there is a big gap there. It's easy for us to make sweeping statements like that. I am a researcher. I am an analyst.
Okay.
For me to confirm sweeping statements like that, there needs to be the arrest and prosecution of persons, so that you can now label that person as guilty. None of us, neither you, neither myself, or even a governor, has the right under our constitution to label someone as guilty. It is only the courts that have that authority. So what am I trying to say? There is a general perception that it is the Fulani herdsmen that are responsible for those things. Now, I'm not arguing that it is not. All I'm saying is that for us to confirm that statement, we need to ensure that a couple of Fulanis are prosecuted for the offense that they are being alleged to have carried out. As a date, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I am not aware that they have been prosecuted for those offenses. Now,
Arrests have been made, but the prosecution now is where the problem lies. Yeah, arrests here and there, making the news. Yes, I know. I listened to one of top official of the government saying that they have made arrests of some headsmen who were found in such crisis. But prosecution is the problem.
Uh,
So how can we get out of there and then make sure that they are prosecuted? And then when people see that people have received justice, a community or a farmer received justice for what has been done, they won't apply same route also for people who want to do so same thing. So how can we ensure that that is done?
by ensuring that the security agencies do their work. And
Okay.
I've heard this ridiculous statement that President Buhari is supporting or stopping the prosecution of, the herders. It's very ridiculous, because remember that the police is made up of the entire 200, 300 plus ethnic groups in Nigeria. And I'm sure if the president can reduce himself to the level of calling the police and telling them not to do their work, someone from within the police will come out and say, no, my people are being killed. So, Mr. President, don't tell me not to prosecute these people. I think it's rather ridiculous that some are making this allegation. Instead of focusing our attention on this type of allegations, I think we should now put pressure on the security agencies to arrest the perpetrators. Now, there is the general belief that these perpetrators are, well, of a particular ethnic group. Whether that is true or not, my point is it is unfair to be making such general statements when a court is yet to prosecute them. So, in places where we're sure those actions are being taken, let's join hands together and arrest them with evidence. With evidence. In today's world, you have the possibility to gather evidence through your phone, as an example, and through other means. So let's do that and then present those evidence to a competent court of jurisdiction and have them prosecuted. Then from that point, we can point a finger and say, this number of persons have been arrested and prosecuted for this offense. But currently, I'm hearing a lot of sweeping statements that are not backed by facts. And that is
All right.
dangerous for our country.
Yes, indeed. Mr. Okezie actually mentioned headers security. Do you have any insight into that you can share with us before he comes? I don't know what is wrong with his network.
So as part of the livestock transformation plan, when the ranches are created or formed, or I've forgotten the name they've given to it, but lands will be allocated for certain aspects. And then as part of that arrangement, you would have several infrastructure, including security, in that arrangement. So even when the governor of Kano, as an example, dedicated Falgore Forest for ranching, according to him, and then he also dedicated the same forest to the military, and they set up a training camp within that ministry. So that's a security arrangement for ranching. And one of the advantages of ranching is that you are able to put your assets, in this instance, the livestock, in a controlled environment where you can now provide security for them, as against when you are nomadic, moving from point A to point B, you cannot provide security for your assets. So yes, the point made by my co-discussant is exactly, even though maybe the manner that we understand it may be different, but the objective is the same. When you put livestock in a secluded location, then you can provide security for them.
All right. Okay. So finally, the federal government sent out some delegation led by the National Security Advisor going round the geopolitical zones to hold town hall meetings with relevant stakeholders over the insecurity state of the nation. So what do you expect from these meetings?
I wish them luck. I pray they are able to douse the tension, and I pray that they are received with the open arms that Nigerians are known for welcoming, visitors. But I am very concerned with the speed with which the meetings are being organized. If you want the buy-in of people, then you need to reach out to as much of the population as possible in a manner that everybody will be represented during these engagement meetings. So we have different stakeholders, from traditional leaders down to religious leaders, then to government departments, and then ethnic associations. In a place like Kaduna, as an example, if you have a meeting and you don't balance all of these stakeholders, then the objective will not be met. So I'm worried that they didn't have enough time to
Okay.
do this mobilization. And I'm also worried that we are doing this outside the structures that government allows. There are some defense councils, so security councils. We have the National Defense Council, we have the National Security Council, then we also have the National Police Council. All of these councils are the highest level within our security structures. And if we had utilized them, then maybe we wouldn't have had the need for this type of town hall meetings. These councils would have allowed for policy decisions to be taken, because frankly we know what the challenges are. Anyone who tells you he doesn't know the challenges at that level, I don't think he's been open and transparent to you. So while I wish them luck, I'm also aware that this stumbling blocks may prevent them from achieving their objectives.
Indeed. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Kabir Adamu. He is a security risk assessment consultant. Thank you for taking out time to do this with us, and of course, sharing your wealth of knowledge with us once again. We thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. Stay safe.
Okay, and to all of you who joined us today, thank you also for doing this with us. SADK Vitus, thank you for your comment, and to all and everyone watching, thank you. For you who shared, we also thank you. My name is Sylvia Ishigbe. I'll be back on Monday for another interesting edition of Youth Assembly. That is when we have the next edition of Youth Assembly. But you can join the discussion by going to our website on www.clickniger.net. That is where you will continue to listen to us 24/7, and you won't be bored, I assure you. This show was put together by Ihioma Ukeji, and we hope you stay safe and continue to take responsibility. Bye for now, and have a fantastic Tuesday.